and I'm happy to have with me in the studio Egyptologist Mr. Samir Abbass to shed more light on the new restoration and development project, as well as, of course, the history of Memphis and the importance of it as the first ancient Egyptian capital. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Samir, and as Rasha have just said, that we want to know historical background about this city.
So first of all, it is my pleasure to be here with you today, yes, and especially talk about Memphis, which is, I think that's one of the most unlucky tourist destination or archaeological sites, not just in Egypt, in the whole world. Memphis is known today as Mitrahina. That's what most of the Egyptians know it today. It lies about 20 kilometers to the south of Cairo, yes, more specified in the Giza suburb. Memphis, as you introduce, it is not just the first capital of Egypt. It is one of the greatest cities of the whole ancient world, yes, with a population estimated more than 30,000 people living in the city, and that was almost 5,000 years ago, which is a very populated, a very big population in ancient time. And Memphis is the oldest, the first capital of unified Egypt. Is not the first ever. There was other capitals before unification, but once the unification happens, that was by Narmer or Mina, that was 3000 BC. Memphis built to be the capital of Egypt in that time. The most common name, Memphis, is derived from the ancient Egyptian name Men-Nefer, the beautiful monuments, the beautiful building. And that's Memphis gets this name only at the 6th dynasty, more specified from Pipi I, maybe because he built his pyramid and he named his pyramid Men-Nefer, and that's why it became applied to the capital afterwards. But the original name of Memphis is Eneb Hedge, which means the white wall. That might be because there was a giant white wall as a protection wall around the city or around the temple of Betah, which is one of the highlights, not just of the city, one of the highlights of the whole history of all of the temples of Egypt. That will be one of the very important things to talk about it today, the Temple of Betah. I'm sure that you are familiar about Karnak Temple in Luxor. Temple of Betah. Karnak Temple is considered the largest temple complex in the whole ancient world. The big surprise is the Temple of Betah is not less in size than Karnak Temple.
So, well, Mr. Samir, sorry for interruption, but so that people would understand, and our viewers, if they are not acquainted with the gods, would you tell us about the triad of the area of Memphis and who's Betah and his family, and then you'd follow up with the rest of the story.
In ancient Egypt, the gods, there was lots of gods, and there was different classes, different categories for gods. There is like those on the top list, like Betah, like Ra, like Amun, and they used to rotate power among them. It depends on the historical area. For example, in the Old Kingdom, that was Betah, that was Ra, which is the most important god. Then in the New Kingdom, from the Middle Kingdom as well, in the New Kingdom, it was Amun, then associated with Ra became Amun-Ra. So Betah in the ancient Egyptian record considered the god of creation and the god of art as well. His wife, Sekhmet, which is a very interesting combination because his wife is the goddess of violence. She was known in ancient years as the goddess of violence. So you have the god of art and balance with violence, which is Sekhmet. It's always introduced in the form of a lioness, a lady with a lioness head. And we have Nefertem, which is a sun. For the whole complex of the temple of Betah, dedicated for this cult. And another important thing about this god and the temple as well, there is different explanation of how the word Egypt today, the English name of Egypt came from. That maybe came from the name of the temple, which is most probably it came from the name of temple. The temple of Betah, known as Hat Cow Betah. Hat means house in the ancient Egyptian text, and in the ancient Egyptian language, I mean. A cow, which is the spirit or the soul. Betah is the name of the god. So Hat Cow Betah is the house of the soul of the god Betah, that corrupted by the Greek historians from the 4th century BC into Aegyptus, Egypti, Copti, Coptic, Egypt, all derived from the same word Hat Cow Betah. So Memphis is not only giving was the capital of ancient Egypt. Memphis is giving the name of the whole Egypt until today.
Yes.
Yes, so can you shed light on the restoration of this area?
So first of all, I'm afraid to say that this area is very much unlucky when it comes to restorations, temples, buildings. The area is they had a big village, very populated, and unfortunately a long time ago this village has been built over the location of the ancient capital of Memphis. And we suffer from this problem always when it comes to ancient Egyptian cities and settlements, because when the ancient Egyptian people lived, they lived in the Nile Valley. And the Nile Valley is the same place where we are living today. So, and throughout the history, there was people replacing old buildings by new buildings, but these old buildings became an antique and historical buildings today. And that's why we have a serious problem in excavating in Memphis today. I put different illustrations and photos with me, which is, so when we talk about Memphis, we shouldn't forget about Saqqara. Saqqara is 10 minutes walking distance, 15 minutes walking distance from Memphis, and Saqqara was the main necropolis or graveyard of Memphis. So Memphis was the capital of Egypt for almost 1,000 years, but after the collapse of the Old Kingdom and the power shifted to the south and Thebes or Luxor became the capital of Egypt, Memphis kept its importance as a religious center and very populated city as well. And that's why most of the artifacts and temples and buildings has been found today, found from the New Kingdom, by the way. So, so we can take them from like 1, 2, 3.
The first is already on screen.
Yes, that is map of Eve, which is showing Memphis location, just to get people on to understand idea about where it looks like. Another important one, which is number 2, which is showing the Nile River.
Yeah, we haven't reached that yet, but till we switch to the next photograph, it's interesting to know more about the strategic location of Memphis. Why was Memphis chosen as a location?
And as a capital of Egypt for thousands of years.
Yes.
There must be reason for that.
Since we have the map.
Okay, first of all, it is overlooking the Nile River. And that was the Nile River is a bloodline and the highway of the ancient Egyptians. And that's one of the 3 strategic locations. Second, across from Memphis is a plateau, a limestone ridge, extend for nearly 70 kilometers, known, and that's where Saqqara, Giza, Meidum, Dahshur, and Abu Sir pyramids.
The Memphite necropolis.
So exactly. So think about like in ancient Egyptians back in that time. They put their focus on their pyramids and their tombs in the afterlife, and definitely when they would choose a location to live, they would like to find nearby a location. So that is like imaginary.
The River Nile?
Is the Nile River, and that is the location of Memphis overlooking the Nile River, and that's how it looks like, what we think it looks like back in that time. So, and if we moved forward, we can see more things as well. Going back to your question, which is very important, so having a plateau, a limestone ridge close to Memphis and providing a limestone and altitude to protect their pyramids and tombs from the annual flood, that was one of the reasons.
There is another photograph.
Yes, that was also another 3D diagrams. It's not reality, it's just imagination.
Recreation of
what we think Memphis looks like. So the limestone ridge and the Nile River, and add to that, it is close to one of the most important natural resources in Egypt in that time. That was like oil in the Middle East today. That was papyrus. Papyrus, which is used for making papers, and the most important use and making pots as well. And for
we
papyrus,
have a photograph of the alabaster sphinx.
This alabaster sphinx is one of the very important finds in Memphis, and now on display in the Open Air Museum. It dates back to the New Kingdom, 18 or 19 dynasty. We are not sure. We are not 100% sure about it because the names is not on it. So. Papyrus.
Yes.
That was the source of the first paper, and that was the only type of paper for 1,000 years. And there was the ancient Egyptians, the government in ancient Egypt practiced monopoly when it comes to papyrus to protect this industrial, and that's one of the reasons to keep the capital close to the delta, and that's which is famous for raising papyrus. Of course, there is other reasons as well, but
and we have this statue.
That's the masterpiece of Memphis area. It's the statue of Ramesses II.
It's in the open museum.
In the open air museum, yes. It's actually this is the only covered part of the museum, which is the statue of Ramesses II. And finding the statue for Ramesses, he ruled Egypt nearly 3,300 years ago. So from the 19th dynasty New Kingdom, to find this statue there, it's a beautiful quality. And Ramesses, for example, Ramesses art is not known for a good quality of art, by the way, compared to other kings of the 18th dynasty. But this one is very special, especially it is a very big size, and a very good quality. And we do believe that it was standing by a big building, a big temple, because these statues will not be standing alone back in that time. It will decorate a facade of temples. And that's very much what the rest of the restorations will prove, that there is a temple still buried underneath. Moving on with the restoration, there is that's a column. You are looking at the top of the column. The rest of the columns is completely still buried underground, not excavated yet. And from the top of the column, you can tell that that's dedicated for the goddess Hathor, the goddess of beauty and motherhood in ancient Egypt, and only we excavated that much. The reason why the rest is not excavated, because of the underground water, which is another serious problem. So the whole entire of Memphis.
So you think that there are still other statues found buried under this area?
Yes,
but we can't excavate them.
Yes, you know, without question, digging everything around the museum or around this area, 100% you will find something. So, and the following one showing also a wall. This wall is part of a pylon or a gate of a temple, and it's completely, it's like almost 2/3 is still buried underground. The problem again is the underground water, and that is a serious problem, which is not easy to solve because the whole area is surrounded by farms and houses, and that's one of the biggest challenge we have in Memphis. So also another illustration, we will have, maybe that's the only picture of the god Betah I have with me today. Yes, that's the one. You see there is a god with a beard and holding a symbol in his hand. That is the most common image of god Betah in the ancient, which is the owner of Memphis, as the owner of the temple, the big temple of Memphis. So, and another important thing, which is we were looking forward for a long time to open and able to visit in Memphis, is the Mummification Temple. We don't have much information about mummification in ancient Egypt.
Yes.
That was one of the secret knowledge of the priests back in that time. But we found that the mummification used to be made not in the cemetery, in the cities, and that was a controversial about that in ancient, among the modern archaeologists today. But finding the Mummification Temple, that's where they used to practice mummification. That is proof. So in this illustration, we have a table. We call that the Mummification Table. And the size of this table is huge, by the way. It can fit 5 or 6 people together. It is not designed for human bodies. It was designed for bulls. And one of the symbols of Betah was the bull, and a very special bull. Very much like most of the ancient Egyptian gods, they have to have an animal symbol. And they have a very specific bull, should be chosen and kept in the temple, a living image of the god. And when it dies, it gets mummified like a royal. It took almost 40 days to get mummified, and that's why they have these big marble, more specified alabaster tables for the mummification of the bull before taking, and that was mummified, wrapped in gold, and buried in a very big coffin, and that was buried in the Serabium. The Serabium, which lies in Saqqara, another important attraction when it comes to that.
Now, you told me before the interview that you visited the new site after restoration. Now, tell me about your personal experience. How was it like? What did you see? Tell me more about your personal adventure in it.
So I will tell you my personal experience as a tour guide, which is taking people to visit a site like this one. In the old days, we used to make a short stop at Memphis, maybe 15, 20 minutes, just to have a quick look at Ramesses, the statue and the collection around, and telling people that, sorry, Memphis is not around anymore because this is buried around. Now we have the chance to add at least a half day to Memphis alone. At least. It could be a full day, but at least a half day. It doesn't make sense. Back in the old days, it doesn't make sense when we speak about the greatness of the ancient Egyptian civilization and we don't have their capitals around. But today we have many buildings. We have shrines has been found. We have temples has been found. We have the Mummification Temple, which is very important. We have the open air museum and other things as well to bring people and show them the real history of Memphis back in
Now I'm
that time.
quite curious because I understand also that you do tailor tours as well. So since you're also in the setting of the program, how can it be fit? Because you know the classical tourism, Memphis, Saqqara and the Giza pyramids, and then we have lunch and other several stops here and there for photo stops and other. So how can it be? How can we tailor it or retailor it in a good way? And would that require more time in Cairo, or can it be fitted like, for instance, we can do Memphis, Saqqara and then we can do, since now the Egyptian Museum will be by the Giza Plateau, then we can do pyramids and the museum and maybe the citadel later. How can it fit in?
So, brilliant question, first of all. You know, today, you know, what I'm thinking about doing for any people they will ask my advice to go and visit the area, I will add Saqqara and Memphis together in one day. So, and Maydoum and Dahshur in a second day. And then Giza together with the new museum when it will be open, that will be on the third day. So we have 3 days only for covering historical ancient Egyptian Cairo, and then another day or two for covering medieval and modern Cairo. So we are talking about 4 to 5 Cairo alone. But yesterday, the day before yesterday, when I made my field visit to the area, the archaeologists there, they made a tremendous and a very good work in inviting us and tour guides and Egyptologists and to come to show them the area. But I think that they have to invite many of the travel operators and travel companies, because those who are tailoring the itineraries, the tour guide receive an itinerary and he has to stick with the itinerary. But it should be the operators, tour operators and travel companies invited so they can add that to their list, because without that there will be still a short stop as it used to be.
So tell us the reason behind naming it as Memphis. Why it was called Memphis?
So Memphis is the Greek version of the ancient Egyptian name Mennefer, and this name only introduced at the 6th dynasty, and before that it was called Enebhaj, and Mennefer, that was named after one of the pyramids, the pyramids built by the King Pipi the first, and that's why it became its beautiful building. It was applied to the whole city.
Yes.
Now, the restoration work was in collaboration with the USAID as well as the American Education Research Association. So that would bring us to the idea of restoration, whether on the Egyptian level or the international cooperation. How do you see the efforts done in that field?
So first of all, Memphis is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and I see the efforts. The team I met 2 days ago, they are very active and they want to do lots of things. I had a chance to talk to Mark Leonard himself, he's like one of the stars when it comes to archaeology, and he have lots of work in Egypt.
I envy you. He's great. He's a great Egyptologist. Oh, I'll envy you more then.
And do you know that he speaks Arabic fluently?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Anyway, but they have very great challenges. I wish, because picture number 15 showing the challenge they have.
Yes.
And unfortunately, first of all, most of the archaeological objects found in Memphis today, it dates back to the New Kingdom. But the city was built and flourished during the Old Kingdom. We believe that what we found is only the extension of the city.
So where is the city itself?
Under houses, under fields, and it's difficult to be excavated today. So when you look at the map,
so hasn't been excavated till now?
It's difficult, because you have an entire village, a big population, built their houses a long time ago on the ancient city of Memphis.
And sometimes they destroy it when they are digging the foundation of the home. Sometimes they damage it.
We still have a chance, we still have a chance, because the Old Kingdom Memphis, it will be at least 7-8 meters deep, because the New Kingdom is like 3 to 4 meters, so the Old Kingdom should be deeper than that. And the good news that, yes, that's the one, and the good news that all of the houses there is small, like a small family houses, 2 or 3 levels, so they don't have a deep foundation to destroy the buildings down below. So what we have here, we have a layout of the Temple of Betah, the walls, and we found the western gate, the western gate, and the facade of the temple alone is 400 meters, and the depth is 600 meters at least. And you see the yellow lines, the yellow frame, that is the enclosure wall of the temple. Look inside the frame, it is all houses. So you are looking at the temple, but the temple completely overtaken with houses built on the top. That's something which is, it doesn't need only the Egyptian Archaeology Department or Ministry to deal with. That's a national project.
So it will be more like the Edfu temple, which was used to have the homes on top of which?
10 times more. 15, 20 times more than the problem in Edfu Temple. So that's need a government in a high level cooperation to persuade, convince, and relocate the entire village to a better place, compensate people, so we can excavate and get the history. Think about to have another Luxor near Cairo with temples, which is not less in importance and not less in size than Karnak Temple. So I think that if there is something which is important to focus on today, that will be this subject. The archaeologists there, they are dying to bring that out, and that cannot be done only with their effort. So,
sir, do you think that we should pay more attention to Memphis as a touristic destination now? We don't see that tourists are aware of this important touristic destination.
Yes, you know, and
put it on the map.
So that's
especially after its restoration.
Marketing, you know. So we have a very I grew up seeing the ancient library of Alexandria being built, and we have to learn from how the director of the ancient library, Dr. Ismail Sirajuddin, how he promoted very well of this project, and now it is on the top list of the tourist destinations. Why am I mentioning this example? Because only using media and advertise. I have been in Dubai almost 2 weeks ago, and when I made it there, I'm afraid to say that they have nothing except big buildings, tall ones, big malls, but they don't have culture or history. But only because they were so good in media and advertise, they managed to attract millions of people to visit Dubai. That's what we need, a program like this one, and more efforts to approach the people out there, like what happens in Dubai and like what happens in the new Library of Alexandria before.
Well, we still have to talk more, but unfortunately I have to thank you very much. Thank you very much, Egyptologist Mr. Samir Abbass, for this beautiful insight and telling us more about the area of Memphis and the new restoration work and development of it. Thank you very much.